This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, talk, inspiration, and prayer. Listen to my show every Monday from 11 to 12 on KWWJ 1360 AM, KYOK 1140 AM, KCOH at 1230 KCOH.com, Sangeet Radio at 95.1 FM, 1460 AM, and Latino Sports, KEYH 850 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then.
All right, Houston, Harris County, this is Gilbert Garcia with a tip from me, talk, inspiration, and prayer. So a couple of things, Houston. I have on the show, although she's not here yet, so hopefully she'll get here. But if not, as they say in showbiz, the show must go on. And that is Amanda Edwards, the candidate for Congress in Congressional District number 18. So we'll have her in as soon as she arrives. And then, of course, my stand-in, my old faithful Ruby Dan is here with me.
Good morning, Gilbert.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. So a couple of quick things before Amanda arrives, and hope she does arrive, is, it's very interesting. There's a lot of things going on. First and foremost, did you know, Ruby, that yours truly was on CNBC twice in the last 2 weeks?
I did know that.
Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
That's
interesting times in the market.
That's because you're supposed to know that. So thank you for knowing. But no, Houston, I was on CNBC twice to talk about the markets, and it was very interesting because my first time was not my first time. I've been on many times over the last couple of years, but what I mean is recently. So my most recent time, the next to most recent time, 2 weeks ago, let's just say that. They asked about what's going on in the credit markets. I talked about what's going on in the high yield, which a lot of people call junk bonds. That's the lower than investment grade, which means it gives you a higher yield than other things. We talked all about that. And I said, this is the time to be a little worried and cautious, because when you look at the stock market and all the risk assets, they're really at levels that are historically rich. In other words, when you look historically, and I mean over the last 25 years, over the last 50 years, over the last 75 years, at these levels and valuation, stocks have really only one direction to go: lower.
Right. That's right.
And so that means the corporate bond market, whether it's investment grade or high yield, also has only one way to go, which is lower in value or lower in price. But what was interesting is I was also on, I think it was Wednesday, but it was really recent.
It was Thursday.
Thank you for knowing. It must have been Thursday morning early, because I'm on that morning show. And Frank Holland, who is the anchor, and he's wonderful. And all the CNBC people, I'm giving you a shout out. Thank you so much. You're my favorite network, outside all the ones that have my show. But going back for a second, he asked me, he goes, Gilbert, what do you think the market's going to do? Because if you look at the long bond, remember, the United States government has to fund, when we all hear the word budget deficit, they have to fund that.
Right.
And how do they do it? They issue debt, which means bonds, and people buy it. And that's how they fund the deficit. Because remember, the government spends more money than it takes in. And that is not a good place to be.
Right.
But they spend more money than they get every year, unfortunately, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so continuing, they have to issue bonds, and they issue bonds at different maturities. And when you add them all up, that's what's called the yield curve, if you were to connect them all together. So stay with me, Houston. I know this sounds complicated, but it really isn't. Whether it's the 3-month bill, whether it's come on in, Amanda Edwards. I see you. Come on, you can't hide. Ruby, thank you for filling in. Amanda's coming in. As she gets mic'd up, I'm going to finish my thought. So come on in, Amanda. So whether it's the 3-month bill, the 6-month bill, the 2-year, the 3-year, the 5-year, et cetera, and they go all the way out to the 30-year, and that's called the long bond. And it happened to hit overseas, meaning when we're asleep, remember, the market never sleeps, it's trading, and it happened to hit 5%. And the anchor said to me, Gilbert, aren't you worried that the long bond hit 5%? I said, no. I said, that's a great buying opportunity. Are you ready for this here? 2.5 days later, it's now at 470, which means several points have gone up in price on that bond. So that's just another way of saying, catch me on CNBC, but let's bring in Amanda Edwards because that's what this show is about. Amanda, welcome for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Good.
I'm excited to be here.
Well, good. You know, I'm excited to show you something.
Okay.
Let's tee that up, and we're gonna interrupt it a few times. You're gonna really appreciate this, Amanda, because you know, where else can you get an hour commercial for free? But no, I really thought that the
I'm Amanda Edwards.
okay, stop. Your recent ad that you put out, ad on word is ad, but your recent item on Facebook, I thought was so well done.
Oh, thank you.
That because it has you walking around your neighborhood and looking at this place and looking at this space and you're reflecting on what it means growing up, and you're talked about your barbershop of your dad or your granddad, and I thought that was such a great piece.
Thank you.
And so, I just saw Alejandro or somebody. I saw that. I don't know who did that. Said the Fred needs to cut rates. You know what? Yes, they do, and I'm calling for it. But I really thought that was such a great piece. I want to dissect it with you.
Okay.
I really do, because I think Houston should really not only see it again, but you expand on some of the items. You hit like 5 different things. I really love the one about where the barbershop was. Shoe shop.
Yeah, shoe shop. It's okay.
Shop. I just really love that. So let's go back. Let's get Amanda Edwards strolling through your neighborhood.
A leisurely stroll.
Yes.
I'm Amanda Edwards, candidate running to serve as the next Congresswoman in the 18th Congressional District. I'm excited to introduce you to my Houston Roots series. This 4-part series provides an intricate look.
So you're going to do a whole series on this?
Yeah. So we did 4. So we've done 4. So
is this the 4th one? And
this week is going to be the last one.
Really?
So you might have missed the others.
I did, or maybe I did, and they didn't quite. This one touched me, right? This is a good one.
This was the Fifth Ward one.
Not that the other ones aren't good. This is a great one.
Okay.
And that's why we're going to
Yeah, we started. The first one is me going to the campus of Texas Southern, and that is where my parents met. So I talk about the desegregation of Houston and how TSU was integral to that with the student sit-ins, but then separate from that, talked about how it was also linked to my family tree. So in the case of TSU, my mom and dad met there. They went out on one date. He didn't get a second date.
because he was
my mother did not think he was mature enough and all of that.
Is that right?
So yeah, so she thought he was too silly. So he did not get a date number 2. And so but that's where they met. And so interestingly, I talk about a story also tied to my mom in that years later, many years ago, well, a few years ago, I was Project Row House's board chair, and I was screening The Strange Demise of Jim Crow, and my mother was there with me, and she just kind of leaned over and said, and we had these legends that were there talking about the film and all that, and how Houston desegregated, and how so much of that story is not told, because part of the strategy for the desegregation here was to have a media blackout. So their intention was for that to be suppressed, so then it wouldn't incite violence and other excitement, and so it just kind of quietly happened here. And so anyway, that documentary,
maybe that was a good strategy. I don't know.
It was
because if you look all around the country, there's violence everywhere.
Well, that's why they did that.
The
Black business leaders got together with the white business leaders and say, this needs to happen. How do we get this done more peacefully? And so they agreed to certain timetables, and we'll get this, desegregated by this date. And they had the TSU students serving as the pressure point. So if you don't do that, then the students are going to make sure the students are out there and you're in the public, and they didn't want that. Yeah. So it's a fascinating story that is very undertold. And so that's why I did the screening to show this film. And my mother at the time was still alive, and she leans over to me and she goes, yeah, I knew that person and this person. And then I'm looking at her like, how come we've never talked about this? So at this point, I'm in my 30s. My mother and I had never discussed it. Wow. And I said to her, how come, why haven't you said this to me before? And she said, well, to you, that story is interesting. To me, it's very painful.
Very
And that's
interesting.
a very interesting aspect of kind of how sometimes history, when it has trauma associated with it, doesn't get passed along as much because people are just trying to be present in the positive and not necessarily dwell in the challenges.
Very interesting.
So that was a part of that first one. And so we talk about that story and then how my parents met there. And then in the second one, we talk
Well, stop
about
right there. How long before when they met?
so
it
goes in
married?
the second one.
Yeah.
So the second one is how they reconnect it. So the second one is a scene. It's me going to the port. So my grandfather used to be a longshoreman. And he had a severe accident that ultimately led to him losing his life. But in that period where his health was declining because of he was having strokes and stuff from the accident at the port. My mother used to have to go pick up his prescriptions, his medication at the pharmacy. Well, my dad went to Texas Southern to become a pharmacist, as many people did at that time and still do. And so at that time, he was the pharmacist in the pharmacy, and she picked up a prescription for my grandfather, and that's how they reconnected as adults.
Oh my God,
So
what a great story.
That's the story. So that's the part 2 is me at the port talking about the accident my grandfather had, the accident and how that led to my parents reuniting.
Wow, what a great story.
Yeah, so that's the port. And then the third one is, I think, the one you've pulled up, which are a story that's based in Fifth Ward.
Yeah, I'm gonna analyze it with you because I think it's great.
And then we have the last one, which you haven't seen yet because we haven't put it back up, and that's going to be Acres Homes as well. So my church and all that. So that brings you.
I'm so glad you did that because it. Who am I to say this to you, right? But it humanizes you. To the public. Beyond just I'm a candidate for this or that, or beyond I want to be in Congress, or beyond the this or that, and I'm going to go fight. The Republican, beyond all that. Yeah. It just humanizes you as just a person. And that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
So going back, you said one thing that I did is I had my my Aunt Concha, and I think every Hispanic has an Aunt Concha somewhere, right? And my Aunt Concha, she was in her 80s, and this goes back in time, and I interviewed her. And I interviewed her for about 2 or 3 hours about what was it like during World War II. And to hear her stories about how they had to ration, rubber, sugar, coffee, and they had the stamps. And she had some of the stamps to show me.
Wow.
I just thought this is, in today's times, we don't know what it's like to suffer the way the great generation suffered. And it was just interesting to hear her stories. And then, of course, she went on and we talked about segregation. She grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas, which at the time was hasn't changed much, about 45%, or actually almost 46% Hispanic, 46 between Hispanic and Anglo-American or whites. It's a very small African-American population. When you go further south towards the valley, it becomes more dominant by Hispanics and, of course, the Anglo community. And just hearing the things that she went through were just unimaginable to me. Now, of course, I feel my own things, but back then it was just so blatant and open and accepted and normal, which, I mean, thank goodness we're in other times. Of course, how terrible we seem to be going back to those times.
Oh, my God.
But let's go back now to the clip.
Okay.
So you're now going through. Okay, go for it. Let's click. We're clicking on.
I Am and My Community and Family Foundation. Come along with us on this journey as I walk you through my background and our family's deep Houston roots. In this installment of My Houston Roots, we take it back to Fifth Ward, Lyons Avenue to be more specific.
Let's
Join
pause
us
there.
to find out why.
Let's pause there. So the city used to be really known by wards.
Yes.
Right. And when did that kind of change? And what was the catalyst for that change? Do you know?
I don't know the history around when that started to change, but yes, it was very much, we have first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Yeah.
And the Fifth Ward, was that primarily African-American?
Yes.
And that kind of is what sort of general area?
Yeah. So if you are driving outside of the downtown area heading north, it's like if you exit on 59, you exit Lyons and make a right. That's the main corridor for Fifth Ward. And so if you just drive down Lyons as soon as you make that exit, one of the first things you're going to see is something called the Deluxe Theater. And so if you've heard of any events that are being hosted there, that used to be historically, a historic landmark in the area. They've refurbished it and now use it as a theater, screening site, event space.
You mean for like a movie theater type theater?
Yeah.
Wow, how
and
wonderful.
So now they use it for screenings. They use it for everything. I've used it many times.
How wonderful.
It's a great asset, but it used to historically be a part of that was their theater back then.
Wow.
So that's now been rehabbed and refurbished. And so it's in use and very active.
Wow.
So I've been to many events there. So that's the first thing you see. You keep driving, and in the area, you're going to see, housing. There's a lot of shotgun housing in the Fifth Ward area. You have churches like Our Mother Mercy. That's where a lot of my family members go to church and that live in the area still. And so you've got churches, you've got, little shops, small businesses that were owned by Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And so my uncles, Clarence and Lewis, were my great uncles. So Lewis was my mother's godfather as well as her uncle. That's also is on that street. And so that was there. And I'll tell you a story about that in a moment. And then my mother used to work at a hospital that was a Catholic charity hospital known as St. Elizabeth. And so that is on Lyons Avenue. All of this great stuff is on Lyons Avenue. So my mother was one of the first Blacks to graduate from the University of Texas medical branch in physical therapy. So my uncle, who was very passionate about giving back to the community and had all these shoe shine boys that would come in, and he would just pay them to keep their grades up and mentor them and stuff. He said, you got to come back to the neighborhood. You can't go to college and then just go off somewhere else. They need to see you come back. They need to see what it means to be able to be a part of your community and have a college degree. So she came back, worked at St. Elizabeth until it closed. Now St. Elizabeth is having its groundbreaking, just did, on being a brand. It's called St. Elizabeth Place.
Oh, wow.
Now it's housing and all kinds of stuff. So it's been rehabbed too, but lot of energy on that street, a lot of commerce, a lot of small businesses. That's where a lot of people had opportunity to try to hang their shingle, if you will. And so it was kind of a very robust, vibrant corridor for Blacks in the city. And so people like Barbara Jordan are from that area, Mickey Leland, George Foreman, a lot of big legends. And so allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly, and quote,
this means folklore,
okay,
folklore, but
folklore.
go ahead.
Folklore
but
would
it sounds
have
good.
it
It sounds
that
good.
George Foreman got into a few fights outside of the shoe shop, allegedly. So I think that, in getting into those fights was also encouraged to bring those talents to the gym.
I had the pleasure. I never was sort of like friends with him, but I had the pleasure to go spend time with him.
Yeah.
When I was running for mayor, as you know, and I went up to the church, I watched him preach, and he is just the funnest guy. I mean, he is just he's passed.
Yes.
But he was gregarious. He was fun. He had all his grandkids and the entourage around him, and yet he made time for me, and I sat with him, and it was just a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
What a great man.
Yeah. So a lot of great people and just great energy from that community.
Well, let's go back to a second. So it's the Fifth Ward. I'm going to say when you win, but we'll talk about winning in a second. Would that be in your district?
Yes. So Fifth Ward is
and
in the district
that
currently, and it will be in the new 18th if those lines remain the lines.
Let's hold that thought, because I want to go through the whole.
Not all of it is in it, but most of it.
I want to go back because I want to educate Houston, and I don't even know where the county lines are as it's going to change. But I want to educate everybody about what's going on with CD18, both in the election in November, both in the next coming election, both in the lawsuit that exists today, both in the new lines, which will then have a new lawsuit. Because if I were a regular voter, just a regular person, and I am a regular person, I'm just a regular person.
We're going to call you regular Gilbert.
You can call me that. I am regular Gilbert. And regular Gilbert says, and I really mean
I like that.
Yeah, regular Gilbert says, I am lost trying to figure this whole. I need like a diagram. I need a flow chart. Am I right or
I can explain it to you in 1 minute.
Okay.
60 seconds.
Okay, go.
It's going to be very simple.
Go.
The redistricting that has taken place does not apply to the special election. So the special election is to fill the unexpired portion of the Congressman Turner's term that he had not completed. That will keep in place the original lines.
Okay.
Even if there is a runoff, it will still be the 2024 lines that apply to the special. The redistricting will apply if it withstands the court challenges, and they're in LULAC lawsuit as well as NAACP lawsuit. If it withstands that those challenges, it will apply to the 2026 midterm election starting on March 3rd, 2026, and then of course November of 2026. So special, old lines, midterm, new lines.
Well, then help me then. So the specials now.
Okay. Less than 60 days.
Yes. So can you believe it?
I can't. I know. And then early vote is October the 20th.
Well, and so special, if one person doesn't get enough, and of course, I know you do well, but it's going to be hard. There's whatever it is, 15 candidates.
There's 16.
Yeah. But who's counting? We are. We are. But I mean, the whole point is, it's going to be hard for anyone to get through without a runoff. So a runoff would be in, I guess, December.
So great question. That's actually in discussion as we speak. So there is no final decision on that yet. It could be December of 25, or it could be in January of 26. It is my hope that it's in December of 25, because it will just cause even more confusion about when there's more overlap between the two races.
Whose decision is it? Is that the governor?
That is kind of a combination between the governor's office and the county clerk's office. And right now we don't have an answer.
Well, let's continue for a moment. Let's pretend it happened in January. If the next election with the new maps is in 26, that would be the following November.
The new election is in 26. It would actually be March the 3rd, which would mean that early vote would start in February. So that would mean
that's even worse.
That's why I said, God willing, this be in December of 25. There's going to be so much confusion if there's that type of overlap.
People are going to be exhausted.
They're going to be tired, and they're going to be confused because you've got folks also who vote by mail.
Yep.
You'll be applying to vote by mail for the next election, and then the special election is still going on.
Well, regular Gilbert's already
with the
confused.
other boundaries.
I'm already confused.
Regular Gilbert is confused.
I'm already confused.
That's why we hope that it's in December.
Yeah. Because my goodness, if it's in January,
yes.
When is the filing deadline? And when you mean it's in March, that would be, of course,
the March midterm.
Primary.
The March midterm.
That's the primary.
Is the primary.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
that will have a early December filing deadline.
So then some people are going to just maybe say, I didn't file in time for this, but I'm just going to go for it when it's set. And I'm going to file in December for the March primary.
So you have to file in December for the March primary. The challenge is that the runoff won't be resolved by the time that deadline comes. So you don't know if you'll be the incumbent or not. And so you have to just file because they won't, regardless.
Yeah.
So this is not, so if they hold it in December, it's probably going to be a couple of days before the actual election.
Houston, and for all of you in District 18, you know something, just know something, please. This is not normal. Normal is you have a census where everybody gets counted, and it happens every 10 years.
That's right.
And then at the
end
y'all
paid for normal already, so y'all double paying.
That's exactly right. So by the time there's a census, they look at it to reapportion the maps. Now, why do they do that? They do it because some states lose population, some states gain population. So it makes sense that you got to keep up with it every 10 years to really have representation for the people. And they try to have each congressional district have roughly the same representation.
So 789,000.
789. So that's normal and that's proper. But what's happening this time is this whole concept of, well, here we are. We just did a census. We just did maps. We thought they were correct, or we thought they were okay, but there's lawsuits, and now we're doing it again.
Yeah. So you want me to break that down?
Break it down.
Okay. So we got a letter in the state of Texas from the Department of Justice that said that the 18th congressional district, the 29th and the 33rd and the 9th had been racially gerrymandered and therefore unconstitutional.
Okay.
So that letter comes, surprise, and the governor says, okay, well, we're going to call a special session on July 21st, and we're going to start with redistricting as our top priority. So forget about the people who experienced the flooding and all that. That's not number one. Redistricting is number one because the president said so. So that is what started. I testified 3 times. I went to Austin 3 different times. I testified in Austin twice, Houston once. And in only one of the occasions that I had the opportunity to testify, did they even have maps available. So that whole time when they had 4 hearings, public hearings, only one of them had maps available.
So you're kind of just talking about it in abstract because
you're talking
you had no idea to say something like Fifth Ward is being split up or
You
this
couldn't
group's
say
being
anything because you didn't see anything. They would not provide maps. So this is the process that we are undergoing. So then they released the map on a Wednesday. 48 hours later is the final hearing on them. And so if you couldn't drive to Austin, you couldn't go up there and testify, then you just miss out. And they didn't have a virtual option. That was it. So that next day they passed the maps and that Saturday, and their plan was to get it passed in full by the legislature by that Tuesday. So we're not even talking about a full week.
I mean,
and then you had, in terms of once you had released that map. And so clearly there was some direction to pass these maps as is, instead of allow for a real process to ensue where you have modification, negotiation. We've seen funny business happen with the maps in 2021 cycle, but there was some negotiation that took place. There was some modification, nothing this time. So let's keep going further. So you get the plan was to get these maps passed on a Tuesday. They broke quorum, slowed the process down, got litigation ready, came back, got the maps passed, and now LULAC has sued and NAACP has filed suit as well. So now on phase 2 of this process, it's a 50-50 shot. The courts could say those maps are just fine. They're not racially gerrymandered. And let me back up and say something. It doesn't matter if the president's desire was to pick up 5 seats that, politically. That aspect of that doesn't matter. That's not unlawful. It's wrong, but it's not unlawful. What is unlawful is to racially gerrymander, to dilute Black and brown voter strength by way of by the way you draw the lines intentionally, way you try to draw the lines to dilute their voter strength. That is what the basis of these lawsuits stand on. So while 2 things can be true at once, he could want 5 additional Republican seats. He could also want to dilute Black and brown voter strength.
That's the only way to do it. That's the only way to accomplish that.
And that's what they're working in tandem, right? And so I just want to make sure people understand, and they're not going to hear so much about the 5 seats because that, for court purposes, is not.
I see.
That's not
the issue.
The driver. That's not the issue.
I see.
Correct. The issue is the dilution of Black and brown voter strength.
And that's because of the Voting Rights Act.
That's correct. So they have filed lawsuits connected to Voting Rights Act Section 2. I want to say something else.
Go.
One of the things that I will do as the next congresswoman for this district is really push for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to pass, because what has happened is being dismantled over time, very gradually. There used to be something called pre-clearance. You may recall hearing that back in 10 plus years ago, they got rid of that in the courts. And so that required local governments, states, or whatever, that they had to go send those maps to the Department of Justice and the courts to get them cleared first before they became the law of the land. So basically, we are now doing the reverse and then putting it on the backs of the public to sue, as opposed to forcing this to be examined properly before it becomes the law of the land.
That's just terrible. That's terrible.
It is absolutely
Well,
crazy.
and
And so we have gotten rid of a huge protection for voting rights.
Well, regular Gilbert also says to remind everyone,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm correct, that the lawsuit from the maps that were drawn at the beginning of the decade
That's correct.
is still going on.
Yeah,
So
this
you're going to
is
have
slow.
you got that lawsuit going on, and you're going to have lawsuits now that were just filed. And if I were the courts, I'd say, "Holy cow! I need."
It's a mess.
It's a mess. Hold that thought. We already have some callers here backed up. We already have an Alex. I think there was someone else. I know you dropped that someone else. Please call back. I know we lost you because of time. I didn't mean to keep you on hold. Alex, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Alex, you got me. Gilbert Garcia tipped me with, of course, candidate for Congress, CD 18, Amanda Edwards. What do you got?
Yes, I had a question for the candidate. One of the questions was like, what are her top priorities in Congress, and like what actions would she take to achieve those?
All right. What do you got?
Thank you for the question. I focus a lot on meat and potatoes issues. So education, healthcare access, and economic opportunity. I talk about healthcare. When I was growing up, my dad was very sick with something called multiple myeloma, and he died from it when I was a teenager. So I remember asking my dad a lot of questions about what would happen if this insurance stuff, what if it said no to the life-saving treatments that my dad needed? And I just remember his answers always being, well, we just have to figure something else out if they did. And always felt very strongly that that was the wrong answer.
Yep.
And that the right answer should have been that we had systems in place that actually save lives and support people versus leave you to your own devices and at to your own devices. And so I believe that we've got to put systems in place that work for people. And so when I think about healthcare access, the fact that the Trump administration is seeking to reverse course on the prescription drug costs reduction that came from the Inflation Reduction Act, and actually reversing course on capping prescription drug costs for seniors. Like, how could that ever in any world make any sense? We finally made some progress there, and he wants to reverse course. Now we're going to go back to a space and time where seniors are having to ration their prescription drugs and take the prescription in the morning and some over the counter at night because they can't afford to pay that. Or
they take their prescriptions and they don't have any AC or heat.
Correct.
Yeah,
you got to make your choice.
So
your prescription drugs or your air conditioner.
That's right.
And that's crazy.
Yep.
And so, reversing course on things like that right now with the big, beautiful bill that's going to have such devastating effects. It's also going to have the effect of making it more difficult to attain Affordable Care Act insurance. And so that's going to be problematic. So we've got to fight back against that. And I do think we've got to fix it. We've got to make the Affordable Care Act something that, small businesses are willing and wanting to utilize. And so there's improvement that we should be making, not making it worse. And so we've got a lot of work to do on the healthcare front. So those are some of the areas that I'll be focusing on as it relates to economic opportunity. And, I hear people talk about the price of groceries. I hear people talking about jobs. I hear people talk about their small businesses. On the small business front, when I was a city council member, I had the opportunity to lead the charge on an issue dealing with equity. I remember hearing us talk about over and over again how Houston is the most diverse city in the nation. And I said, well, what good is it to be the most diverse if we're not solving the challenges that our diverse communities face? That's the work of equity. And so I put together a task force. We came up with strategies, recommendations. We found some really staggering statistics at that time about the disparities that white-owned small businesses had versus those that were Latino-owned businesses or Black-owned businesses. We, at that time, found that white-owned businesses were at $225 billion in sales and receipts. But when you compare it to Latino-owned businesses at that time, it was 19.1 billion, and Black-owned businesses were only at 3.3.
Oh, that's terrible.
And so we have got to get serious. And it's not because we don't have entrepreneurs. It's not because we don't have small businesses or shingles. Y'all know we have small businesses everywhere. It's a lack of a vision and intentionality in helping to share in the wealth, the ability to provide access to the capital that would allow you to really scale your business, hire employees, really grow. That's what we're not being intentional with. So one of the things I want to do in Congress is to start utilizing what's known as CDFIs. community development financial institutions, which are different from traditional banks. They have a different regulatory paradigm. They can lend at greater rates to women and minority small business owners. So when the PPP loans happened, you remember during the
During
pandemic,
COVID,
and they got distributed on the first round. You saw stuff like Shake Shacks of the world getting $10 million bucks, but then mom and pops were shutting their doors left and right. So you're saying, well, what's going on? Weren't they in part of this working capital that was supposed to be getting to our small businesses, our small restaurants, or this or that? And it was because they didn't have the banking relationships. They weren't prioritized. And so the second round, they did some different things, including the use of the CDFIs that I'm describing. And so then you started seeing the dollars flow differently into the communities that need it the most.
Well, I'll tell you another stat, just because you brought it up.
Sure.
Access to capital, building your business. We're money managers, as you know.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is here in Houston, there's a lot of talk by the forefathers around here about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Well, there's a lot of diversity, but there's not a lot of equity, and there's almost no inclusion. And I'll just give you a fun fact. We manage money for firefighters, pension employees, city workers, police, all over America. The three big pension funds here, the fire, police, we don't manage any money for any of them. We manage money for endowments and foundations all over America. We don't manage any money for Houston Endowment. We manage money for universities all around. We don't manage money for University of Houston. I could go on and on. We manage money for DFW Airport, DART, CTA, transit agencies all over America. We don't manage money for Metro or the port. Why is that? When here we are, we're one of the fastest growing money managers in the country. We have been for 10 years. We're now almost 26 billion. But that goes back to what you're saying. There's a lot of talk, but there's not a lot of, what do they call it? Walking the walk. But there's a lot of talking the talk.
Absolutely.
So I'm so glad you brought that up.
It's easy to say the term DEI, but what are you going to do about it? And you got to have intentional leaders that prioritize.
I love that. Intentional. You got to be intentional. So let's go back to that clip. You thought I was done with the clip. I'm not. So those of you who are trying, we're just showing
this neighborhood is so special to my family and to the community.
I like watching
When I think about Fifth Ward, I think about Lyons Avenue. There's so much rich history on this street. So many people who have been leaders from this community, Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, and the likes. And I am walking toward the front of what used to be known as the CNL Shoe Shop. That stands for Clarence and Lewis, my uncles, who opened up the shoe shop here on Lyons. Now, this wasn't your ordinary shoe shop. This shoe shop was a space and place where young boys were being mentored. They became shoe shine boys and had to keep their grades up. And it was a space where my Uncle Lewis in particular really invested in the community. He made sure to mentor young men and just the people in the community and make this community better than it was before he founded. And it was very important to him that the rest of the family do the same. When I think about legends from Fifth Ward,
let's
so many names come to mind.
Right,
I've mentioned Barbara.
He must have been a hell of a guy.
Yes.
I mean, really. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, I am very fortunate, although, it's important to watch people and be a part of a family and a community that believes in giving back. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to be elected. You don't have to have a specific platform, whatever your platform is, and however you can reach people. We are all here for a limited period of time. So what is it that you're doing while you're here and in order to contribute and make the community better than it was before you found it? So,
and that's the key.
Yeah.
I mean, making money is, we all want to make money. Everybody does. But at the end of the day, life is bigger than that and more important than that.
Yeah.
And it's about how you live your life. And it's about making a life better for your kids and their kids and all of those things. I love that. Hold that thought, because we have another caller already. Is there Brittany on the line?
Yes.
Brittany, are you there? You got me, Gilbert Garcia, with a tip from me, with Amanda Edwards, candidate for Congress, Congressional District number 18.
Hi, guys. I was just calling in to see what financial advice would Amanda give to a low-income single parent times are hard, and, a lot of us are trying to keep our heads above water. So what financial advice would you have for those who can't afford to put money into 401ks and things of that sort?
That's a wonderful question, because these are difficult times.
It's very
And
difficult.
not only is it difficult just in general, but prices are higher. Unemployment's going higher, especially for people of color, especially for the Black population, especially for young population. So please go ahead. The question.
I'm a big supporter of entrepreneurship. And so now's the time when things are challenging, things are tight. If you have an idea, in terms of something you have an interest in, a small business you want to create, really be honing in on what resources could be made available so that you can start having the opportunity to grow that small business. Sometimes you see small businesses, people start them on the side. So they have their work that they have, W-2 employment work, whatever it is that they do for their daytime job, but then also finding a way to generate more income through entrepreneurship. We have several resources, several chambers of commerce in town. So you can pick your poison, as they say, as to which ones you want to be a part of. There's a Greater Houston Women's Chamber. There's a chamber for different racial groups. You pick whichever ones you want to be a part of. They're all awesome, great groups with whom I've had some wonderful working experience. But get the tools for free that they will provide you in terms of how to start a small business, how to start off small and keep your overhead very light. But this might be something that you might want to consider. This is a time for that, where you may want to consider starting to grow an additional source of revenue stream so that you can support your needs. I mean, right now, what we're seeing is that the price of groceries, the price of everything is going up, but we're not seeing people's wages go up. We're not seeing people's income go up. And so that disconnect between the wages and income and the price of living has really put a strain on a lot of people. So I would suggest thinking about, if there's ever been a bug that you've had for trying to start something, this might be a time to start really getting serious about it, because that'll be a new revenue stream for you. And it doesn't mean you do it full time. You got to get it to a space where it starts to become profitable for you, and then you can consider, growing it and more. But that will be something you can consider as just an additional revenue stream. And of course, it's hard to save in times like this, because the expenditures are high and higher. But when you can save, make sure to do that. Try to reduce what you're doing with regard to some of the Uber rides that you might not need to take, or, some of those things. Figure out if there's some cost sharing that you can be utilizing to keep your expenses, the kind of hidden expenses, lower. Look at your budget. Look at the way you spend your money. Look at your credit card statement. Are there recurring fees that you're paying that you don't really need to have that membership anymore? Or you don't really need to continue to have as one of your expenses. So, sometimes we're forced to do that. I had a case of fraud. So I had my credit card switched out to a lot of stuff. And then I'm getting messages like, oh, you got to switch your credit card. And I'm like, well, why do I have this anyway? So, you get to ask those questions. So kind of do a kind of deep dive. Sometimes you realize, they've been debiting for me once a year. What is this anyway? And so, you sign up for the promotion when you're trying to get a discount on whatever the product you purchase, but I have to keep those up. So, kind of look at your finances that way too, in terms of where there could be cost savings. But think about some entrepreneurial opportunities for yourself where you could monetize, and that it's not high overhead, low overhead expense, and see if that's something that might be an avenue for you in terms of generating additional revenue streams at this time.
So Brittany, thank you for the question. We appreciate that. And I know we had a couple of people that emailed in, and there was a Marina. I don't know if you can find her, but Marina, I saw that you said you're listening for the North Side.
Okay.
And then I see that you said we're members of the Greater North Side Chamber of Commerce, and they've been supportive of my business. Very good, Marina. Thank you for sharing that. And I thought I saw another one. Ernie said something to the effect of, remind us how many candidates are in the race. So how many again?
Don't remind me.
Was it 18?
Well, I am proud to tell you, I'm excited to tell you, we went from 30 filed candidates on the federal side to only 16 on the state side. So that means we have gone from 30 to 16. So
Whoa.
now this is it. This is the deadline. You can actually withdraw. There are a few, this is actually the last day that if you're choosing to withdraw from the race, this is the last day to withdraw.
That your name will be off the ballot.
They can literally take it off the ballot if you do it today.
So those of you who are on the fence, go ahead and clear the way because this is going to be a tough race. There's going to be a lot of good candidates, and they're all working very, very hard.
And did you know I'm ahead in the polls?
No, tell us about the poll.
Yes.
I know you had a poll. That's right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So
we're
ahead in the polls. We're excited about that.
But do the whole thing.
Yeah. So we're 6 points ahead in the polls, outside of the margin of error. A lot of undecided voters still. So we know there's still a lot of work to be done in this election. However, we are first place. Second place is Carmen Maria Monteith. She's 6 points behind me. 7 points behind me is Jolanda Jones. And then Christian Menifee is 8 points behind me in fourth place.
And there's number 2. Please correct me if I'm wrong. She's the Republican.
That is correct.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So
that she's second.
Yeah. So I think it's probably also, remember, this is a general election. I want to emphasize that to people because they're going to be confused. We're used to a primary first, a general second. There will be no primary. So all of us, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Green Party, whatever. And I think those are the 4.
Yeah,
that we
the top 2 get in, period.
Yes. So we're all on one ballot. So you don't go to a separate Democratic primary. You don't go to a separate Republican primary. You go in there. We're all on one ballot, and then you just pick your person.
Wow.
And but they will say who's Democrat, Republican, and Independent. And
it will say it on there.
It should say that.
Well, hold that thought. We have another call already. Is there a Linda there? Linda. Can you hear me, Linda? Linda, I think I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Miss Linda. You have me, Gilbert Garcia, with Amanda Edwards. And what do you got for us today on this Monday midday?
Well, exactly what I said I was so glad to hear you're doing is what's going on for our elections and interviewing candidates.
Great.
Certainly. I mean, and since I live in District 18, wrote to the Commissioner, Hudspeth is her last name. I'm just forgetting her title. Hudspeth is
County
her last
Clerk
name.
Tanisha Hudspeth.
Yes. Okay. Well, good. I still won't remember it, but I'll remember Hudspeth. Okay. And I get back a response. I said, how is this election going to happen? How are you going? You don't have, this is a partisan election. This is not just a general free for all that I can understand. And you got 21 people and you don't know who's, I can't understand it. And she wrote me back that it was going to be, they were going to take the top runners and there would be a runoff and they would be drawing for the ballot. The first thing that I heard that sounded intelligible is the way you explained it, but for such a domineering district, one that Sheila Jackson Lee, I'm not going to repeat to you all of her accomplishments or even some of them, had formed into where we were so powerful. And now we don't even know we got 21 candidates and we've got people that when they sat on city council, never looked up, never answered their emails, never got back to the community, but now they want to run for a district where we had someone that was in touch with us. I don't understand it. So what are you candidates doing that they haven't explained to the district completely how we're going to conduct this election, especially since they want to take over Harris County? It's a plum to your president.
Great questioning. First of all, let me just reiterate. It is a general election where Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and Green Party members will be on one ballot at the same time. It will say 16 of us are on the ballot that's been certified by the state. And so we'll have this general election. The biggest challenge that we face with 60 days still remaining is explaining what is happening with this election. If you recall, by way of Governor Abbott refusing to call a special election in
Yes,
a
I do.
timely manner. That is the message that most people received, is that the governor did not call it. When he finally called it several weeks later, most people did not hear that message. We've been knocking doors. We've been making calls. We talked to people who we would think would be informed about that. And it is surprising how many people are saying, oh, that's happening this year. Oh, okay. I thought that was next year. They think we're running. They know we're running. They think we're running for next year. So we have to message.
Well,
at
that's
every point.
also been the thing that has been released too, that there will be another election for next year. And I hear, and exactly, it puts you, between the devil and the deep blue sea, because, are you going to explain to them how the vote is going to be cast? Because you got 16, you say 16 people are on there. You got 16 people now. And, what would have been something where if he had called a special election, well, I don't know if he had the capability, but back when when Sylvester Turner died, at least we don't know how are we going to know? You say are they going to identify I'm a Democrat? Because the signs I see up in our neighborhood, in our District 18, which is a good voting district, the signs I see up don't indicate who's Democrat, who's Republican, nothing.
Yes, my understanding is that it will have identifying information about who's what party. But of course, there is still going to be a huge asymmetry of information on what do they stand for. And so getting your sample ballot is one way to help prepare yourself for that. Checking with the League of Women Voters is another way to get voters prepared. In addition to the special election, remember, there's going to be HCC on the ballot. The school board seats are on the ballot. Propositions will be on the ballot, and the at-large for city council, my old seat, that will also be on the ballot in a special election as well. So now there are a few more things that have been added to the mix that hopefully will increase the buzz around this special election timeframe, but there is certainly an asymmetry of information. So we have got to, every time we message, what's happening on November 4th, we need to be also messaging the fact that the new maps don't apply to the special election. The old maps do. We've got a lot of information that we need to disseminate in a very short period of time.
Linda, we're running out of time, but listen, I really appreciate you bringing it up, because the bottom line is we got to keep talking about it because people need to know what's happening.
That's right.
So thank you for giving us and Amanda Edwards an opportunity to just sort of go through it all again.
And it's never just go out and vote, because look at the confusion and just go out and vote. The people, you do have about 10 people that are qualified, but it's easily that election could go Republican, because the Democrat, we don't know what's going on.
We don't know, but you know what? I believe between here and there, you're going to see the candidates. Certainly, I know Amanda Edwards is going to be out there really educating people about what's going on. So stay tuned. Thank you so much, Linda, for calling in. Let's try to get one more caller in. It says here, Becky says the caller's correct. Many public servants don't even bother to return constituents' emails. Way to go, Becky. Not that way to go that's what happens, but thank you for highlighting that. Is there another caller there? I thought there was one more caller. Let's try to get that caller in. Sarah, are you there? Sarah.
I'm here.
So you got
Hello,
me, Gilbert Garcia, the tip from me with Amanda Edwards. You got about 2-3 minutes. What do you got for us today?
Hi. I was just wondering, is there a forum for, anyone to attend that we can check out and get more information?
Wonderful. I know there was one on Fox, right? Didn't Fox? Why don't you go through the whole thing?
We had our first debate already that I think is still available online. So if you want to watch that or replay it, you can do that. And so that was Fox 26, hosted by the precinct chairs of the 18th Congressional District in collaboration with some other organizations at Wheeler. That has taken place. That took place on the 28th, I think it was, of August. And then tomorrow, the Greater Houston Black Black Chamber and NAACP are going to be hosting an event where it's a forum style event that's taking place at the El Dorado. And then on
what time
Saturday,
is that? What time is that? Do you know?
Pull out my calendar.
Well, I don't want to buy it. Let's just say it's in the evening, right? In the lunchtime.
Yeah, and they should hold on. I'll just tell you. I think well, I've got on here what time I've got to get there. I'm not sure what time you got to get there if you're a member of the public. Let's just, in the evening, probably around 6-ish.
Okay, that probably makes sense. I didn't want to interrupt you. You had a couple more things you were going to go through.
And then we have one, AKA Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, is also having one at Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church on Saturday. I think the start time is, let's see. I think it's 1:30. 1:30, but check their website, check everybody's social media just to confirm the time. But these are some that are coming up in short order that you have an opportunity to attend. And as far as I'm aware, I don't believe any of the events that I've heard of are charging any entry fees or anything like that to have access to them.
Thank you so much for the call there, Sarah. Let's go back to that commercial because we're running out of time. I want to play that rest of that commercial. We're talking about great leaders in that district. And here we go, Barbara Jordan.
Of course, my Uncle Lewis used to mentor Mickey Leland. There was George Foreman. George Foreman was from this community. And of course, after many fights, finally got into the boxing ring. And of course, the rest is history. There's so much rich history to tell on these streets in the Fifth Ward community, but especially here on Lyons Avenue.
Boy,
I'm standing in front of what used to be St. Elizabeth Hospital, also on Lyons Avenue. My mom, who is no longer with us, started her career here because of the fact that my Uncle Lewis encouraged her to show the community that you can go off to school and, of course, come back and make a difference. My mother started her journey in school at Texas Southern University. She was one of the first members of her family to go to college. Then she actually graduated from the University of Texas Medical Branch in physical therapy, where she was one of the first Black graduates in her program. As a result, my uncle felt very strongly about the importance of giving back to the community, and that's how my mom ended up at St. Elizabeth. And she remained here until it closed in 1989. This is really a full circle moment for me. I remember my mom working at this hospital day in and day out, tirelessly. As a little girl, I remember her coming home in her white jacket, and I know how passionate she was about seeing her physical therapy patients and the difference that she was making in the lives of people who needed help. I remember not only that hard work, but also how much pride she took in it and how much joy that she was brought from it. As a result, it was of great pride to me while serving as one of the at-large city council members. I had the opportunity to support the redevelopment of St. Elizabeth into now what is going to become St. Elizabeth Place, a place that will, of course, provide housing as well. So I'm just really thrilled about the fact that this community has, of course, jewels like St. Elizabeth Hospital that now will become housing for people in this community as well. I'm standing in front of the sign for Boyce Dorian Park, located in Fifth Ward, right behind Hester House. Now, of course, the Dorian part of the park is named after my uncle, Lewis Dorian, who invested tireless hours in making sure he was mentoring and investing in the Fifth Ward community. It's a source of great pride, especially because it was recently rededicated. In fact, on MLK Day, as we commemorate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, we were able to rededicate this park, and part of that rededication included painting the basketball court. And so it's really a wonderful tribute to the community, and I'm glad that the Rockets and others were able to team up to support this worthwhile endeavor so that the community here can continue to have a wonderful, clean, safe, vibrant park. I think one of the things I get asked a lot is, why are you so passionate about service? And I guess you could say it's in my blood and it's part of my Houston roots.
There you go. Amanda Edwards, you got about 30 seconds right now. I want you to look at the camera, tell Houston, and tell CD 18 why you're running and why you should be the next member of Congress.
Well, thank you again, Gilbert, for having me on. I'm Amanda Edwards, your former at-large Houston City Council member, now running to be the next Congresswoman for the 18th Congressional District, because I believe we deserve a community where every single person, no matter what their background, no matter where they live, has the opportunity not just to get by day to day, but we want you to thrive each and every single day. That means healthcare, economic opportunity, education, having a focus on solutions and delivering results. If you want to follow me online, you can visit us at www.edwardsforhouston.com. I'm on Twitter as AKEdwardsTX, Blue Sky as AKEdwardsTX, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as Amanda K. Edwards TX. So please follow us for more information about our campaign. We're leading in the polls because we are the people's candidate, and we are making it not about me, but about the community and the needs that they have so that we can serve them.
All right, Houston, Harris County, and CD 18 voters. We'll see you next time.
All right, Houston, Harris County, this is Gilbert Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert, Talk, Inspiration, and Prayer. We're going to now be on television. We will air every Saturday on Comcast 17, AT&T Channel 99, Phonoscope Channel 96, Suddenlink 99, and also hmstv.org. Every new episode every Saturday at 7 p.m. And follow me on social media. See you then.